What's happening, people? This is Up with the Omega Trigger, the only Omega Trigger out there in the market. Not bringing you my market thoughts this time. We're gonna spice things up a little bit. I'm gonna show you something that we did yesterday, or that I did yesterday, and that I called out on Twitter. And I'm gonna break it down to you. I'm gonna explain why I called it out. I'm gonna teach you one of my main setups, or one of the setups that I like. I like many setups, but this is like a very easy setup, and I really love when I see it. And I'm always looking for this because I feel that this is easy money if you execute it the right way. With that being said, let's just get right into it. So during the live session that we had earlier this week, we kind of talked about long wicks and hammers and red candles, right? That in some cases, some people might see it as not bullish, as bearish. But in my case, when I see that, I start getting really, really interested, and I start really paying attention to what's going on from a price action perspective, so I can execute and maximize the trade that I'm looking to do. So let's get started. And I've done a little bit of prep work. I did my homework, and I've done it. I did this so you guys can understand what I'm seeing, and hopefully be able to visualize the concepts and the things that I'm sharing with you. And when you see them live, or when the market is open and they're happening, developing right in front of your eyes, then this is just going to be something like an aha moment for you. And you'll be able to see it. You'll be able to know exactly what to do, how to execute, what to do, what not to do, and so forth. So let's get right into it. Here's what I'm seeing. So let's go back to this date. This is 6/11, and this is a 4-hour chart. You can do this with just about any chart, but I like to zoom out, and then I'm gonna touch on why I zoom out. So long wick, it's like a doji hammer, doesn't really matter. So what am I looking at right now? To me, this is bullish, but I want to find the right entry. I want confirmation that this play is going to play out, or that is going to give me what I'm looking for. So I'm looking for confirmation. I'm not looking to jump the gun. I guess you could have jumped the gun here, but that's not the point. You don't want to do that, because sometimes you're not going to get the best entry, or you're not going to get the confirmation that you're looking for. So you got this beautiful doji hammer with the long wick holding. So now I'm looking for a higher high. Confirmation, the reboot happened. We are at the login screen right now, but it's almost kind of like still running some updates in the background, right? So we're waiting for the login screen. So what happens here? We have this higher high, right? Big move. Now, that was my confirmation to get in. That higher high happened, right? Ideally, you get a pullback, but you don't know when the pullbacks are going to happen. You see this? So sometimes you're going to get the pullback, and that's going to make it even a more successful trade, because you can just kind of like time the entry a little bit better, but you don't know what it's going to happen next. This case, there was really no pullback, and it ripped. It ripped all the way to the upper targets. So how do I play this? Risk is really important. You need to identify your risk, right? You need to, like, if you're going to be trading for big moves, not scalping, but trading for big moves, then you need to understand that your sizing is going to matter. If your sizing is not right, you're going to be sweating bullets, and that's going to cause you to panic, and you're going to get out of the trade, and then you're going to say, oh, I should have stayed in. It worked. Well, yeah, you didn't stay in because you panicked, and because you would not size correctly, and because you did not pay attention. So you're being a knucklehead. Don't be a knucklehead, and really understand what your risk is and play within those boundaries. So you still want skin in the game. I want skin in the game. I want to make sure that if this rips, which it did in this case, but we didn't know that at the time, that I am in the game. I have skin in it, right? So like let's say that you have 4 contracts. That's your max size. I'm making this up, right? So you would buy 1 or 2 contracts here, right? And the pullback ideally would be to the rip, and this is going to be music to Milt's ears, right? This is almost like a gap, a gap up, right? And then you want the gap to kind of like get filled, or get filled for the most part. And that will be your entry, because it's going to minimize your risk, and it's going to maximize your trade, and it's going to give you the best entry. Now, if it's forward, I would take 2 and maybe buy 2 around here, this area, this support. That's why my lines are so important, because they also tell me where support is and where are potential areas for me to buy. It didn't happen, so it ripped. So what am I looking at now? I'm looking to potentially go to my upper levels, the top of the range. Top of the range in this case was 54.61, one target. That would be the next target. So what I do is I try to scale out at each one of my targets. If I have a main target, I'm going to unload most of my position there, right? And if I feel that I still have room, or there's some, we held an important level and there's still room to go to the next level up, then I will hold some more, or just some of my position, so I can just still have skin in the game. I do not let a good trade turn red, meaning like if you already hit the main target or your first target, you should just pay yourself, and then your stop should be at entry or above entry. So if it goes back against you, you still make money. Did you make what the money that you wanted to make? Maybe not, but you still made money, right? And that the trade was not negative. So in this case, it kept going up and it hit the upper targets. Here's setup number 1. You see it? Now, setup number 2. What similarities do you see? All of them. It's almost the same trade, right? With the difference that, number 1, this move was way bigger, right? This was like a rip. This, you could barely log in here, right? It just didn't really give you had to execute real quick. This one was a little bit more tame, so to speak, right? So you have the long wick, the high, right? And it's beautiful because now you can have, what your risk is. Now we can enter right here. We didn't get a pullback either, right? But now your top of the range is going to be this right here. You see that there's a lot of congestion, or there's a lot of levels here that need to be broken. And that happened, you can see it because once you got here, you kind of rejected, went down, retested, and then you went up again. But that's besides the point. That just illustrates the ranges, or the top of the range, and the targets based on your levels. You see that? You see how this is a very important area with some important levels? So that's your main target. Now, you would have been stopped out here, right? But guess what? Do you see the same setup over here? I should do, right? You have like this long wick right here, and then you have this big reclaim, right? And now we do it all over, right? Again, this was a big move. You want skin in the game. You go, 1-2 contracts in, right? And just save some firepower for potential pullbacks. In this case, there was no pullbacks, right? There was no pullbacks, and we just tested the top of the range. It happened. Trade was successful. And if you enter right here, you have not been stopped out yet. If you're trading futures, right? You still like in the trade. You still, with some runners. Now, I was not able to get in. I missed it. I didn't know about this. But for yous that were part of the live that we had earlier this week, we kind of talked about this a little bit. So you could have just even seen or identified this other setup. Do you see it again? You see this hammer right here, this with the wick. Now these setups are not as good as these and these two, because the wicks. I really like when the long wicks are there, because that tells me that there's going to be quite a bit of firepower, on that trade, right? There are more buyers, there's more price action, there's more activity around those levels, and people interested in the stock or the market going up. Here, not so much. So I would be a little bit more, careful and maybe not as aggressive with my targets. But target would be top of the range, which is right here. Why is this not? It's kind of annoying. Well, you see it right here, top of the range. Okay, so we had that setup 3 days in a row. And I'm looking at a 4-hour chart. You could have capitalized on that setup, right? But let's say, well, I didn't know about this, but now you do. So what did I see yesterday that helped me be comfortable with that setup? Going back to this. So I saw this candle right here. The price action right here is telling me that I need a higher high now as confirmation for me to get to jump on this trade. You know, like I need confirmation to get in. And I got my confirmation here, right? You see my confirmation here. It tried over here, it couldn't. It tried over here, it couldn't. But now we confirmed the higher high by closing above that level, right? So now I know for a fact that this is going to go to the top of the range. Now, the beautiful thing about this trade is that it did give you a pullback. It did fill that gap, so to speak, or it went back and filled the move before it made the rest of the move, right? So again, if your risk is for contracts, so that's your max size, right? You could just buy 2, and then around once you feel that the move, the gap, or majority off that gap, then you can just buy like around this area, this was a beautiful entry. Really, this was textbook. You wait, and then your full size, your average is gonna go down probably to here, right? Now your risk is, just breaking below this, confirming and closing below those levels or that area and confirming again, right? That will be your stop. But that didn't happen. What happened? We pulled back and then we made a new high. Do you see how this setup is repeating itself over and over and over again? And how it doesn't matter what time frame. Don't go to the 15-second. Don't be a knucklehead. Stay within, like something like the time frames matter. When you're playing for big moves, time frames are going to matter. So don't be a knucklehead and go back to the 15-second and get stopped out because hey, it went, it was a minute, right? It was below my line or my level for a minute. So please don't do that. Zoom out and make sure that you're waiting for confirmation. You're waiting for price action to tell you what to do, what to stop out, what your targets are, and to guide you, because higher time frames are going to be your friends when you are trying to capture the majority or a big move. When you're trying to capture majority of the move, larger time frames are going to be your friends. So please be sure that you do not go below, do not go to those very, very low time frames and start panicking because for 15 seconds it was below and it tried it 5 times and it was not able to get above, so it must be a stop out right here. Please don't do that because you're going to take a lot of losses, unnecessary losses, and it's going to create frustration, and it's going to be detrimental for your trading and your development. Okay, so let's just get that out of the way and let's be clear about that. Now, I hope that you see this. So I marked the setups, right, for use. Like, let me double click on this. I'll make it green, Jets green. So right here how these setups are always repeating themselves, right? And if I go back on the chart, and I'm looking for, you see how these wicks are? You're looking for, the longer the wick is, the better the setup is going to be, right? The better the setup is going to be. But you have to be ready to identify these setups. You have to be ready to see what's going on and ready and have a plan. And your plan, and stick to it. Don't panic. Stick to the plan. Even if you see that the trade is going against you, just wait. Be patient. In some cases, you're going to see a pullback like here, right? In other cases, you're not going to see it. It's going to work right away, which is great. But in either case, if you have a plan and you know exactly how to execute and what to do and what not to do, most times than not, you're going to be successful and you're going to make a lot of money on these trades. I hope that you were able to see how to execute, or why I took that particular setup, and why I said that this was going to go up, why it was going to rip. And when I called it out, maybe it didn't make any sense, but now that I've explained it to you, hopefully this makes sense, and now you're ready to attack the market tomorrow and look for the setup and make tons of money, and subscribe to us, of course. Support us, subscribe, continue to, if you're a subscriber, we thank you so much for subscribing and supporting us, and we hope that you continue to do so. This was Abu the Omega Trigger, bringing you some real setups, actionable setups for the market, and that will just get your account and wallet as fat as you would like it to be. Later.